Good morning, Jackie. It's really nice to have you here. Please, will you introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to be talking about at the workshop today?
Okay, thanks, Louise. Jacquie van der Waals, work for CRI as the Program Manager of Preharvest Diseases. And I have two talks that I'm giving at the workshops. The first one is on Alternaria, brown spot and core rot and the management thereof and cultural practices. And then the other one is on various fungi that we find in and on our flowers.
Okay. I recall now we've been asked to talk to you about Alternaria. So I think just dive in and tell us what is Alternaria, like 101, please.
And from what I understand is that you do get some Alternaria on oranges, but it's mostly in the mandarins.
Yeah, correct. So Alternaria and citrus causes two main diseases. The first one being Alternaria brown spot, which we see on leaves, twigs, fruit. And then the other one is core rot, which is actually only seen post-harvest, but it develops in the orchard. So you are quite right. Normally we only see Alternaria on the soft citrus types, but it can occur on oranges, on lemons, on quite a lot of different cultivars, depending on the isolate and what toxins the isolate can produce.
So how does that fungus get inside the fruit?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So if you're talking about inside the fruit, then we're talking about core rot.
Yes.
So
Which is the most important one to focus on for growers?
Both of them are important. The brown spot will cause lesions on the fruit, which will then obviously downgrade it cosmetically. Doesn't actually rot the fruit. And the second disease is core rot, which results in a rot of the central columella of the fruit. So if you want to know about that one, that infection actually starts when the flower is developing. And if cracks develop in the primary style of the developing flower, then the Alternaria can infect there through those cracks. Then it sits in the developing fruit latently until it starts maturing. And then only after maturation does it actually start growing and causing a rot of the central columella.
So the fruit needs to actually be ripe before it starts to grow.
Yeah.
Is it because of sugar content and stuff like that?
Yes, exactly right, yeah.
Interesting.
It doesn't do anything until the fruit is ripe, and that's why one doesn't see it until it's too late.
Is that something that optical cameras and stuff in the pack houses can pick up, or is it only once you literally peel the fruit and you open it up?
Yeah, so it's difficult to detect. So in the orchard, first of all, the only giveaway sign would be maybe a discolored navel end or early coloring of the fruit, and then they might drop early. But you don't actually see any exterior symptoms of rotting. And then in the pack house, it's very difficult. One actually has to cut the fruit open, unless they're very severely infected where you would maybe see discoloration. Other than that, it means cutting the fruit open. Yeah.
Okay. So in the orchard, what are the circumstances that are ideal for the development of Alternaria?
Okay, so it depends again on the two diseases. The first one being brown spot requires relatively high temperatures. I'm talking not high, but 23 to 27 with leaf wetness or fruit wetness of about 8 to 12 hours. And then infection occurs. Symptoms are then seen about 24 hours later.
And this stuff it's in all the orchards.
Yeah, Alternaria is very common. It's found in basically all citrus growing regions in the world.
I know that you get it on apples and pears as well.
It's a very common pathogen. It occurs on so many different crops. So it's really ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Yeah.
And moisture is a key component to getting
Moisture
it
is
going.
very important. It requires moisture for the spore to germinate and then to infect.
Okay. Has that got anything to do with why the areas in the west of South Africa do not have as much of a problem?
Yes, that is definitely one of the reasons, because obviously if it's a winter rainfall region, then when the plant is susceptible, which is at new flush, there's not a lot of leaf wetness and it's probably still a little bit cool. Whereas in the summer rainfall regions, new flush coincides with rainfall, and then there's a more favorable environmental condition for infection. Yeah.
So it actually goes with the rainfall. That's very interesting.
Definitely with the environment or with relative humidity. So areas that are low-lying or close to dams or rivers are definitely more favorable for the development of the disease.
Interesting.
And how big is the impact that of this? Is it a significant thing that farmers need to really focus on?
It can be quite significant, especially on susceptible varieties. So there's definitely a difference between varieties in terms of their susceptibility. And yeah, if you have a favorable environmental conditions with a susceptible variety and a lot of inoculum, you can get very, very severe infection. Yeah.
So what do growers need to do? I mean, at what point in the development or season, what is your advice to growers? When do they need to look out? How do they need to look?
Yeah, one needs to be looking out from development of first flush, because that's when infection occurs. So that's right in the beginning of the season, first flush of leaves, and when the fruit are still small.
Which months are we talking?
So depending on when the flush occurs, August, September.
Okay.
Is that before flowering?
Yeah, when the leaves
Okay.
start flushing already.
Okay.
Yeah, so before flowering, and then obviously flowering. So the leaves will be susceptible until they're fully hardened. The fruit is susceptible throughout its lifespan, but it's more susceptible when it's young, when it's
Yes.
developing. So it's important to ensure that the trees are well pruned, that there's very good airflow and light penetration in the canopy, because the more airflow one has, the less favorable the conditions are for infection. So it's cultural management. And then obviously also just monitoring when the temperatures are right, and then being aware that infection might start soon. There are programs that are registered. Some of them are only contact fungicide based, like copper, for example. Some include single site fungicides. So azoxystrobin and some of the other strobins are also registered for Alternaria control. But it's very important that growers follow the guidelines very strictly when using a strobilurin because of the development of resistance.
Okay. So
Bearing in mind that we also want to apply strobies in the CBS program. So if one uses up your strobies in the beginning with Alternaria, they're out for CBS.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask that. Is it something that you could do preventative together with CBS, or do you only start treating it once you find it?
No, then it's too late. It has to actually be preventative. It's not a curative control.
Okay.
But the recommendations are no more than 2 consecutive strobie sprays in a season, and an absolute maximum under very severe conditions of 3 strobies, and that includes those that are applied for CBS. Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so you must be very careful.
My goodness.
And then you must make sure your tractor's calibrated.
Yes.
As Andre,
Exactly.
as
And
Andre
Andre
and
has
MC
very
has
well
said.
said.
Yes.
Yes. And MC has also given a talk on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Quite
So,
right.
okay, I'm going to ask the stupid question that I'm thinking about. So, we've just spoken to people about citrus black spot. You're talking about citrus brown spot.
That's right. Yeah.
So, they are completely different.
Completely different.
Okay.
I suppose to the untrained eye in the initial stages, it would be difficult to tell them apart, but CBS develops much later. ABS develops very early.
Okay.
But one can tell them apart. ABS lesions become corky and they're erumpent, so they stand out
Oh, I've seen that.
from the rind. Yeah. So that
Okay,
tells them
interesting.
apart. But they're completely different pathogens. The one is found everywhere. The other one we know obviously not. Yeah. So no, they're different.
Very interesting. Okay. And is this a problem? Is this an ongoing problem to tell people about it and try and get them to do what needs to be done at the right time?
And are they vigilant? Is the growers vigilant?
I
about it?
think they are, especially if they have susceptible cultivars, then they are quite vigilant and they know what to do. It's just basically a reminder, and every now and then we update on new literature and what research is being done as well.
Okay. Your mention of cultivars is interesting because obviously when people are buy our new cultivar, it's rather fabulous, and take it home and grow this.
Yeah.
To actually have somebody say, look, maybe you should just look at susceptibility. Obviously, you're not going to mention any names, but are some cultivars definitely more susceptible
Some
than
are
others?
highly susceptible. So globally, it's very well known that cultivars with the Dancy parentage are the most susceptible.
What's a parentage?
Dancy, it's
What's
a
that?
clementine.
Oh, okay.
So some are very, very susceptible and others not so much.
Okay, so it's actually good to start with that knowledge. It's empowering.
Yeah, exactly. So we are at CRI, we are in the process of developing a rapid bioassay to screen cultivars. So even before they are commercialized, then we
Yes,
can have a
obviously.
look at the initial cultivars that they've developed or initial plants and screen them accurately,
That makes sense
repeatedly.
because at the CRI offices, which I filmed, they do where the new development of new cultivars
Okay.
happens there.
Yes.
So they could potentially do this even
Yeah.
before it's commercialized.
So that's the idea. Is
That makes
eventually we
sense.
will have a bioassay that we can use to screen the cultivars.
Has this contributed to the discontinuation of some of the older cultivars?
Yeah, some of them, and then also some that are not recommended or not planted very widely because they're highly susceptible. And it's not only in South Africa; it's globally.
Okay.
Some countries actually, before they even consider commercialization, they first do a genotype screening
Yes.
to determine if they've got certain genes, and they will leave those cultivars out completely.
So again, it shows the importance of R&D in
Mm-hmm.
fruit production,
100%.
and that there is a reason why people do all of this.
Exactly, quite right. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mrs. Jones that
Interesting.
walks into the shop and picks up a clementine for a kid's lunchbox, they never think
No.
about this.
Well,
Have
they
no
don't have the
idea.
exposure, but you're right. It's all of the stuff happens behind the scenes, and if you go and look at the fruit that we put on the shelf today versus what we were putting on 60 and 70 years ago, that R&D and the cultivar selection and all of that,
Quite right.
and disease resistance. I mean,
Yes.
that is so important.
Yes, very, very important. You're quite right.
Is there a way that people could possibly make a mistake between this and something else? That there might be something that they need to look at particularly to identify that they have this problem?
Okay, so a lot of diseases have very similar symptoms, and it's not always easy to differentiate between them. So I think if anybody's ever unsure, they must contact an expert or send the samples to the CRI diagnostic clinic and get them identified on a molecular basis so that they know exactly what it is. So yeah, it is even often to a trained eye, it's sometimes difficult to differentiate between different symptoms.
Why I'm
different
asking that is
diseases.
because if you are just a farm manager or a scout or whatever, you might be walking in an orchard and see something, but you might identify it as something else, and you spray the wrong thing, or
Yes.
then you sit with either resistance or
No, exactly. No, and I think that applies to so many different symptoms. They could be abiotic, could be due to a chemical damage, or it could be an insect, or so many different options. So it is very important. Although I think most of the growers are and farm managers know what they're dealing with, especially in certain areas. But yes, it's always important to make the correct diagnosis. Yeah.
sure.
Is South Africa doing anything? Are we responding to this problem in the same way that other countries internationally are doing it? Is there like a international standard practice?
Yeah, and that's exactly where the bioassay comes in. So there are many bioassays that can be used to screen plants for their susceptibility to ABS, for example. And this is what we're doing. We're taking all the different bioassays that are used globally and we're comparing them to one another on cultivars where we know the susceptibility. And then we're going to choose the best one that works for us.
Okay.
So in terms of our research, we're very much on par with what's happening in the rest of the world, definitely.
That's good to know, and I would imagine it sounds like there's quite a lot of cooperation internationally on this kind of thing. If you're doing it,
Yeah, we are I wouldn't say collaborating, but communicating with the Australian citrus researchers, and we're comparing our results and making sure that we're doing the same thing. Yeah.
So, soft citrus was planted by the thousands of hectares almost 2-3 years ago, straight after COVID, because the guys did well with it. Is there a possibility that because a lot of those trees might be coming into production now, that people didn't consider something like this, that they could be running high risks?
I think that is a possibility, that we weren't really aware of how severe the disease could become on certain cultivars. So, yeah, it was probably just ignorance, and yeah, we didn't really know what was
Yeah, if you don't know, you
lying
don't know.
ahead.
So is there a list available of those cultivars that growers can access and say, okay, right, I did plant these, I did plant those, that they need to be more vigilant in those orchards?
I think most of the growers already know, but the whole idea behind developing this bioassays so that we can list on the cultivar website not only their tolerance to, for example, drought stress or high bicarbonates in the soil, whatever the case may be, but we can also have a list saying this is their susceptibility to ABS. Yeah. So that will come out. A lot of them also, if they are grown anywhere else in the world, you might find articles, references to their susceptibility. Yeah.
Is there anything that you haven't told us that you wanted to still add? Like what is your main mission to tell growers to look out for?
I think the message that often gets across to growers from these is footprints in the orchard. That's what one needs to do. You need to walk through the orchard, have a look what's there with the insects. The entomologists are always preaching scouting, and we are saying it's not necessarily scouting, but it's walking through and seeing what's happening and observing, being observant and seeing, okay, I can see some tiny lesions here. I need to climb in before it gets worse. So it's just being present, knowing what's happening, and then also contacting your CRI, either extension officer or researcher, and saying, okay, I've noticed this, what could it be? Could we send samples to the diagnostic clinic? Being proactive.
Very
Okay.
interesting.
Extremely interesting.
I said to Andre yesterday when we were talking about scouting and all that, is that often people will walk in and they will have a quick look around and they go through a row. But if you take your time and you stand at a tree and just watch, you will very quickly start noticing things that you would never have seen.
Exactly. Totally agree.
So it's, and you don't need to scout 100 trees in your. If it's there, you'll find it.
Yeah, quite right.
Sure.
Well, Jackie, that was incredibly interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
It was super. Thank you very much.